You are kneeling. The cold of the marble floor seeps through the thin fabric of your trousers, piercing straight to the bone. This is the first and clearest sensation since your consciousness was thrown into this strange body cold. Not the cold of winter, but the cold of indifference. Before you, an old eunuch, his face a mask of dried leather, slowly flips through a silk-bound ledger. The smell of incense in the room is thick and cloying, a desperate, failed attempt to mask the scent of bodies and the despair of the dozen other girls kneeling behind you. Lift your head. The eunuch's voice is high and sycophantic, devoid of gender or warmth. You obey. This body obeys before your modern mind can even process the command. It is a trained reflex. You look up into a pair of murky, scrutinizing eyes. He doesn't see you as a person. He sees you as one might see a horse or a piece of porcelain. He inspects your teeth, your skin tone, the clarity of your eyes. A rebellious thought screams in your mind. Who are you to look at me like that? But your throat is dry. You can only remain silent. Name, he asks. Honorable eunuch, my name is... You almost say the name your parents gave you. But a strange memory, this body's memory, stops the words. That name died at the palace gates. Your parents, your family, your past, all of it was left behind those towering vermilion walls. I have no name. I await a name from His Majesty, the Emperor. You hear yourself say the words and feel a part of you shatter. The old eunuch nods, a rare, satisfied nod. You have passed the first test. The following days are a waking nightmare of rules. You learn to walk in tiny, silent steps, like a lotus blooming. You learn to smile, your lips allowed to curve only to a perfect angle, revealing no more than 4 teeth. You learn to speak, your volume just enough for the person before you to hear, but no further. You learn to eat, taking only 3 bites from any given dish, no matter how delicious or how hungry you are. All of it is taught by an old matron, whose gaze is colder than the marble floor. Your world shrinks to a small courtyard, shared with the other new sisters. The air is perpetually tense. Every girl is a rival. A friendly smile could be a trap. A polite inquiry could be a probe for information. Your dual lens, your modern intuition helps you see the artificiality. But this body craves a connection, a scrap of warmth. Your senses are under assault. The cheap powder of the other girls mixes with the smell of anxious sweat. The rustle of silk is everywhere, a sound that should be soft but feels menacing. The food is exquisite but bland, for it has been pricked by silver needles to test for poison. You begin to learn the language of rank through the quality of fabric, the number of pearls on a hairpin. This is the unspoken tongue of the inner palace. One afternoon, while practicing embroidery, you hear a shrill scream from the courtyard. It is cut off abruptly, replaced by choked sobs. The matron orders all of you outside to witness. In the middle of the courtyard, a girl your age, Xiao Lian, is being held down on a long bench by 2 stout eunuchs. She had accidentally broken the matron's teacup. You don't see the wooden paddle. You don't see blood, but you hear it. The dry, heavy thud of wood on flesh. You hear the sickening crack of bone. You see the faces of the other girls, pale, lips sealed shut, no one daring to look away. The matron speaks, her voice chillingly calm. In this palace, a life is worth less than a fine piece of porcelain. The words sear into your mind. This is not a school. This is a battlefield, and you have just seen your first casualty. No one sleeps that night. Lying on your hard bed, you can smell the bitter medicinal ointment from Xiaolian's room. Her weak whimpers last all night. You realize the brutal truth in this gilded cage. Pity is a luxury. Empathy can drag you down to your death. A few weeks later, you are moved to a new, more beautiful residence. It means you've passed the initial selection. Here, for the first time, you encounter a truly high-ranking consort Lai. She walks with an entire entourage, her robes of resplendent Suzhou brocade, a solid gold phoenix hairpin trembling with her every step. Her perfume is delicate and powerful, overpowering all other scents. Everyone kneels. You do too. You bow your head, your eyes fixed on the courtyard tiles. But you can feel her gaze sweep over you. A long silence. Your heart pounds. Then you hear her chuckle, a sound as clear as a silver bell and as cold as ice. A new sprout. She has some color to her. She isn't speaking to anyone in particular, but you know she means you. You don't dare raise your head until her entourage is long gone. But you know, from that moment, you have been noticed, and it is not a good thing. In this world, being noticed by a tiger doesn't mean you're special. It just means you might be the next meal. One moonless night, unable to sleep. You wander outside for some air. As you pass a deserted corridor, you hear hushed voices behind a decorative rockery. It's Consort Liu, and a man's voice. Your heart stops. A consort meeting a man other than the emperor is a crime punishable by death. Your modern mind screams, "Leave, pretend you heard nothing." But your body is frozen in fear. You catch fragments of words, the prescription, the empress, cannot conceive, a world-shattering secret. You take a step back, and your foot snaps a dry twig. Crack. The sound is small, but it echoes like thunder in the silent night. The conversation inside stops. The silence lasts only a second, but it feels like a century. Then, you hear footsteps. Consort Li emerges from behind the rockery, her beautiful face a statue carved from ice under the moonlight. She says nothing. She just looks at you. Her usual arrogance is gone. Her gaze is cold, sharp as a knife, and it pins you with an unspoken promise you know. And for that, you must die. Death does not come immediately. Consort Li is too clever for a clumsy, direct attack. She will wait. She will choose her moment. The anticipation is more terrifying than the act itself. You hesitate before every meal. You are startled by every shadow at night. You are living under the weight of her threat. Your modern mind understands the concept of psychological warfare, and you are its primary victim. Your innocence is dead. Only the survival instinct remains. You know you cannot simply wait to be slaughtered. The prey must learn to hunt. You have no power, no family backing. Your only weapon is this mind, the mind of someone from the future. You begin to watch more closely, to listen more intently. You realize the emperor, for all his wives, is deeply lonely. He does not lack for beauty. He lacks novelty. You decide to take a gamble. Instead of competing with the zither or brush painting, skills you are only mediocre at, you will use the one thing no one else here has: your stories. You search your memory, taking a Western fairy tale, an Aesop's fable, and twisting it, giving it the veneer of an ancient Chinese legend. Your chance comes at a banquet in the imperial garden. Consorts take turns performing. One plays the zither, another dances. When it is your turn, a pale, insignificant presence, you simply ask to tell a story to amuse His Majesty. A few soft, condescending chuckles ripple through the crowd, including from Consort Li, but the emperor, perhaps bored of the repetitive displays, nods. You begin to speak. Your voice trembles at first, but then the storyteller's focus takes over. You tell of a king who sought happiness, traveling the world only to find it in the simplest of things. It's a simple tale, but the way you tell it, the details you add, the subtext about the loneliness of a man at the very top, it reaches the emperor. When you finish, the garden is silent. You see the emperor looking at you, truly looking, not a passing glance, not the look of an owner at his property. He is intrigued. Interesting, he says. What is your name? That night, a eunuch arrives at your quarters, bearing silks and jewels, and most importantly, a name bestowed by the Emperor Concubine Ming, the bright or brilliant concubine. You have succeeded. The first night you are summoned is a strange experience. The opulence, the elaborate rituals. You are bathed in scented water, wrapped in a silk quilt, and carried by eunuchs to the emperor's bedchamber. There is no romance. It is a procedure. You feel debased, an object being presented. But when you face the emperor, you try to remember your story. You are not just a body. You are a mind. The experience is frightening and hollow. But as you are carried back to your quarters the next morning, a small sense of victory flickers within you. You survived. You were acknowledged. You have a name. You have a foothold. But you also know that the brighter the light, the darker the shadow it casts. And the shadow strikes quickly. A few days later, the emperor suffers a headache after drinking tea you personally served. It's just a mild headache, but the rumor spreads like wildfire. That Concubine Ming's tea is suspect. That Concubine Ming may not be as pure as she seems. There is no proof. But the seed of doubt has been planted. You know who is behind this. Consort Li's triumphant gaze as she passes you tells you everything. The emperor's favor cools as quickly as it came. He no longer summons you. You are isolated again. But this time, it's worse. You are now a known target. The eunuchs and palace maids grow cold. They are the ultimate realists. They know who is about to fall from grace. In your despair, you find a sliver of hope. Another concubine. Concubine Anne is also new and without connections. She is gentle, shy, and often bullied by the others. One night, you find her crying alone. You approach her, say nothing, but offer her your handkerchief, and the shadow strikes quickly. A few days later, the emperor suffers a headache after drinking tea you personally served. It's just a mild headache, but the rumor spreads like wildfire. That Concubine Ming's tea is suspect. That Concubine Ming may not be as pure as she seems. There is no proof, but the seed of doubt has been planted. You know who is behind this. Consort Li's triumphant gaze as she passes you tells you everything. The emperor's favor cools as quickly as it came. He no longer summons you. You are isolated again. But this time, it's worse. You are now a known target. The eunuchs and palace maids grow cold. They are the ultimate realists. They know who is about to fall from grace. In your despair, you find a sliver of hope. Another concubine. Concubine Anne is also new and without connections. She is gentle, shy, and often bullied by the others. One night, you find her crying alone. You approach her, say nothing, but offer her your handkerchief, But Consort Li does not let you be. A devastating blow is planned. A Taoist priest is invited to the palace to assess its feng shui, and he discovers a cursed effigy in the empress's garden, meant to harm her health. On the effigy is a type of silk thread that only people from your hometown use. The evidence is damning. You are dragged before the empress, Consort Li, and the other consorts. The empress, a woman who cultivates a benevolent image but is ruthless in reality, is furious. You kneel on the floor, knowing that no story can save you this time. You glance at Concubine Anne, searching for a shred of support. She is trembling, her face as white as a sheet. The empress turns to her. You share a residence with this creature. Did you notice any suspicious behavior? It's a trap. If Anne defends you, she will be implicated. Anne looks at you, her eyes brimming with tears. You can see the conflict, the terror. Then, she takes a deep breath and prostrates herself on the floor. Your Majesty, the Empress, she says, her voice trembling but clear. I once saw Concubine Ming sneaking out at night, holding something that looked like an effigy. Time stops. The words of your only friend echo in your ears, sharper than any blade. Betrayal. It hurts more than the accusation itself. You look at Anne, but she won't meet your eyes. She has chosen her own survival. Come very well, the Empress says, her voice like ice. Concubine Ming's heart is venomous, plotting against her superiors. The crime is unforgivable. Strip her of her title, cast her into the cold palace, and let her fend for herself. 2 large eunuchs grab you. As they drag you away, you pass Consort Li. She smiles at you, a smile of absolute victory. Your world fades to black, the cold palace. The name says it all. It is not just cold in temperature, it is a coldness of the soul. The place is damp, decaying, inhabited only by gray walls and the living ghosts of disgraced concubines. You are thrown into an empty room with a single tattered mat. The food is leftovers, sometimes moldy. For the first few days, you nearly go mad. Your modern consciousness screams in despair. This is the end. You will die here, silently and filthily. But then, amidst the rot, the survival instinct that has been forged over the past months rises again. It is no longer the fear of the prey. It is the stubbornness of a weed. You will not die. You begin to acquaint yourself with the other residents. They are mad women. Souls long dead even as their bodies still breathed. They are living warnings of your own potential fate. But in their madness, you find scraps of information. You learn which eunuch can be bribed, which guard has a soft heart, and most importantly, you have a secret weapon, Consort Li's death sentence. The secret you overheard behind the rockery. You know that if you die, this secret may die with you. But if you live, it could be your key. You need a chance to get this information to the right person. That chance comes in the form of a young eunuch, assigned to the cold palace as punishment. You observe him, see his hatred for Consort Li, who put him here. You approach him, not with bribes, but by offering him a path to revenge. You tell him the secret, but only half of it. The other half, you say, can only be told directly to Eunuch Li, the emperor's most trusted attendant. It's a final gamble, and it pays off. Days later, Eunuch Li comes to the cold palace in secret. You tell him everything, with the cold calm of someone who has nothing left to lose. You give him details that only someone who was there could know. Eunuch Li says nothing, just gives you a long, deep look, and leaves. A week later, the palace is in an uproar. A contingent of the Imperial Guard arrives, not for you, but to arrest consort Li and her lover, a palace guard. The charge is plotting to poison the Empress to usurp her position, and the crime of adultery. The entire inner palace is shaken. The door to the cold palace is opened for you. The sunlight is so bright it makes you squint. Eunuch Li is standing there, bowing. His Majesty invites Concubine Ming to return to her residence. You step out. Your clothes are ragged, your body is gaunt, but your eyes are different. As you walk the familiar path, palace maids and eunuchs prostrate themselves on the ground, not daring to look up. They no longer see a naive girl. They see someone who has returned from the dead. Your title is restored, and you are showered with even more rewards. The emperor feels guilty, and an emperor's guilt is a form of power. You have become the beauty with a blade's edge. Your exterior is soft, but your core is cold steel. You see Concubine Anne again. She falls to her knees before you, trembling, begging for forgiveness. You look at her, the person who threw you into hell. The desire for revenge burns, but you extinguish it. Killing her would be too easy. You help her up, smile, and say, "I understand. In this place, everyone must save themselves. We are still sisters." Your smile terrifies and more than any punishment ever could. From that day on, she becomes your most loyal servant, bound by fear and gratitude. You have power. You have favor. You can make others tremble with a single look. But when you look in the mirror, at the beautifully painted face, you no longer recognize yourself. Your modern consciousness whispers, "Who are you? Who am I?" The corruption is complete. You realize the bitter truth of power. The emperor's favor is not love. It is just a more beautiful, more secure cage. He is jealous. He is controlling. You have everything, yet you have no freedom. You are lonelier than ever, alone at the pinnacle you paid for with blood and tears. Not long after, the Empress falls from grace when her family at court displeases the emperor. She is placed under house arrest in her own palace. This is your once-in-a-lifetime chance to ascend to the highest position. One night, the emperor visits you. He strokes your hair and says casually, "The Empress has a son who is still very young. I worry it is not good for him to be around a resentful mother." You understand the subtext immediately. He is giving you an opening, a suggestion. If the child, an innocent boy, were to have an accident, or if evidence were found that the Empress was teaching her son to resent the emperor, she would never have a chance to return. That position would be yours. The emperor leaves, and on the table, he has left a brocade box. You open it. Inside is a small, exquisitely crafted dagger. It's not a weapon for assassination. It's a symbol, a tool to frame someone, to create false evidence. You stand there, in your opulent, cold room. The dual lens of your consciousness is screaming. On one side, your modern self is horrified at the thought of harming a child, disgusted with what you've become. On the other side is this body, this person you now are, a survivor forged in hell. That person whispers, just one more step to the top, to absolute safety. No one can ever hurt you again. Your hand trembles as it reaches for the brocade box. What will you do? Will you become the demon that rules this hell? Or will you cling to the last shred of your humanity? knowing that in this world, kindness is often the first to be burned. The gilded cage remains. The door to ultimate power is ajar. The choice is yours.